I have to say, I want to give you another example. Following my colleague, Senator Kramer's remarks, the fact that the PRC colluded with their commercial arm to use corporate espionage to steal from Lockheed Martin, and then they turn around and gave that information directly to the PRC government, which then allowed them to solve their problem with the landing gear of their fifth generation fighter jet that is supposed to be the competitor to the F-35, and they were very proud of that. And that partnership between their government and their private sector is really, there's no real private sector. I do want to. I'm going to get to the effects of foreign adversaries on our national security, but I think we need to also start at home. I think that with President Bush in the White House, with President Biden in the White House, I am confident our commander-in-chief understands that restoring alliances is critical to advancing American security interests. And I know that President Biden recognizes that the strength of our nation is not solely derived, however, from military might, but also the strength of our values. We have a president now who understands the wisdom of then General Washington's admonition to his troops that discipline is the soul of the army. My relief at the arrival of the current occupant of the Oval Office does not lessen my concern over the significant and lasting damage that former President Trump inflicted on the principle of good order and discipline. From denigrating US service members as killing machines to pardoning individuals accused of committing war crimes, over the past 4 years, the former commander-in-chief sent a really dangerous message that members of the military are above the law. And we saw that on January 6th, our nation witnessed the consequences of such reckless behavior as President Trump incited his followers, which disgracefully included veterans and active duty service members, to engage in violent acts of sedition and insurrection. Effectively addressing external security challenges abroad, I believe, demands that we swiftly correct internal deficiencies in good order and discipline within the ranks. General McMaster, you served in uniform for more than 30 years and have extensive experience commanding troops in combat during the Gulf Wars. Can you please address why it is critical to our own national security and stability that the United States military, starting with the commander-in-chief, prioritizes the principle of good order and discipline and faithful adherence to the rule of law?
Well, Senator, thank you, and thank you for your tremendous service to our nation in uniform and now as well. I really think that it is most important for us to maintain our professional military ethic and our warrior ethos. I mentioned that in the opening statement. I have more in the statement for the record, and I think that there is a misunderstanding, about the nature of our warriors, what they're calling, and what motivates them to fight in our name. And I think most Americans don't understand that our warriors are warriors and humanitarians. They're humanitarians because they are engaged today against the enemies of all civilized peoples. And they're also humanitarians because they use force with great discipline and discrimination, often taking on much more risk themselves to protect innocent lives. And that ethos is one about values of honor and courage and self-sacrifice, but as you're alluding to, it's also it's what bonds them together under mutual respect and common purpose and affection for one another and pride. Pride in what they are committed to one another, and pride to their commitment to our nation. And nothing is worse for unit cohesion and confidence than breakdowns in discipline and if expectations for our own conduct are lowered. I think the question to ask of any unit are, what do servicemen and women in this organization expect of one another? And your answer to that helps you understand the health of that organization. I believe our ethos is strong. I wish more of the American people understood what it is. And of course, our leaders have to nurture it and protect it. The one thing I would say is, what is really dangerous is if political leaders try to drag the military into partisan politics. And I think that we've seen a tendency to do that. The most extreme one was on the part of the president, but I think others across the political spectrum have done that at times. And it's really a danger to that professional military ethic. Senator, I'll just mention, I never voted. I voted just recently, but while I was on active duty, ever since I took the oath of service to the country at age 17, I followed the example of George Marshall. And the reason was to keep that bold line between our military and partisan politics. I don't expect that from anybody else. I expect all Americans to vote, but I think that that's an important aspect of the military professionalism you're alluding to.
Can you speak then, General, to the efforts of right-wing extremists and domestic terrorists to recruit and radicalize members of the U.S. Armed Forces, and tie that to what you have worked on extensively and written on extensively, which is Russian information activity? Because our adversaries recognize the strength of that warrior ethos, and I do think that there is a threat to our military's strength with these concerted efforts to provide misinformation to our troops.
Well, thank you, Senator. I feel good about our armed forces and their ability to insulate themselves from that kind of infiltration and then disinformation and using maybe some members who may come into the military with really a skewed interpretation of what military service means. This isn't new. I remember as we were waiting to attack into Iraq in 1991, Baghdad Betty on the radio talking to our soldiers. Now it was very unsophisticated. But the effort was to get our soldiers to be pitted against each other and lack confidence in who they were, and to get them to focus on kind of micro identities rather than their identities as soldiers in service of our citizens. And so I think it's incumbent on every leader to protect and nurture our warrior ethos and our professional military ethic. And I think we have the right leaders in place in our military to do it. But I think that this is obviously an area worth more scrutiny after what we witnessed on the 6th of January.
Thank you.